Hi everyone, my name is NVR Triggers and I'd like to welcome you to this online seminar which is focused on Provision-ISR's analytics. I've got an action-packed session ahead where I'll be showcasing the majority of Provision-ISR analytics, so let's dive right into it. At the heart of Provision-ISR's AI capabilities is our proprietary analytics engine called DDA, which stands for Detect, Distinguish, and Alert. Our first generation analytics are object-based, meaning our cameras powered by onboard AI can identify and differentiate between three object types, being people, four, and two-wheel vehicles. And it's not just about identifying the objects, we also give you full control to define rules and parameters. So for example, you can trigger an event when an object crosses a line in a specific direction. Detect when an object enters or exits a designated area. You can even trigger an alert if an object suddenly appears in this designated area. We've got object counting analytics as well, such as counting objects across a line, as well as within a specified area. And we've even got time-based analytics, where we can set a time limit for how long an object is allowed in a certain zone before actually triggering an event. We've since moved forward with our second generation DDA analytics, taking object detection to the next level by adding in object attributes. So now, in addition to identifying people and vehicles, we can also detect specific characteristics. So for example, for people, we can identify if it's a male, if it's a female, what color clothing they're wearing. We can identify upper color versus lower color. The person's wearing glasses or a backpack, the approximate age, etc. When it comes to vehicles, we can identify if the color of the vehicle, the type of the vehicle, is it an SUV, is it a truck, is it a sedan, and most impressively, we can identify the manufacturer. Is it a Nissan, is it a Lexus, is it a BMW? To help you make sense of where and how these analytics are supported, I've prepared a very useful compatibility chart. You'll find it's included in the presentation, which you'll receive later. And it's also available on our website and within our digital catalog. This chart outlines which camera models support our first generation DDA, our second generation DDA, our more advanced analytics such as face detection and recognition, and other specialized analytics. So if you're searching for a specific analytic feature, say face detection, this chart will show you exactly which series is supported. And I'm not going to go through the entire chart now, but I highly recommend checking it out afterwards and using it as a reference going forward. Let's start by discussing our first level AI analytics, which is line crossing and sterile area detection. Now, it's important to understand that by 2025 standards, we consider these to be basic analytics, and they're available across every camera series in the Provision-ISR lineup, from entry level all the way up to our most advanced models. Let's look at some practical case studies. Line crossing is one of the most commonly used analytics. It's exactly what it sounds like. Draw a virtual line and get notified when an object crosses it. So most people immediately think of perimeter protection, placing a virtual line along a fence or a wall to detect when someone tries to enter or exit the property. But that's just the beginning. Here are a few more operational examples that I can think of. So take parking ramp monitoring, for example. In a multi-level parking structure, you might want to restrict pedestrian movement on vehicle ramps. If a person crosses the line in either direction, you may want the system to trigger a flashing light, a siren, and alert security, but to ignore vehicles and allow them to pass freely. On a one-way street, you can place a camera facing the traffic flow, and if a vehicle travels in the wrong direction, you can notify police or trigger a warning signal. In automatic gate openings, remember the old school loop detectors that you had to bury in the ground to open the gate automatically when a vehicle approaches? Not anymore. with just a basic Provision-ISR camera, you could set a line at the property entrance or exit, should I say. When a vehicle crosses it, the camera sends a signal to your gate or boom motor to open automatically. It's very clean, it's very simple, and there's zero digging required. Now let's talk about sterile area analytics. So this feature lets you define a virtual no-go zone, and you can get alerts when a specific object enters that area. So here are some examples of where this really shines. So let's take a no parking zone in a parking lot, for example. You can outline a space that should remain clear. If a person enters, there's no big deal, but if a vehicle drives in and stops, the system triggers a response, like, for example, activating an IP speaker with a custom message saying, hey, you've parked illegally. Please move your vehicle within 2 minutes or it's going to be clamped. You can also use it in restricted public areas, should I say. In a city square or park, you can set up sterile zone, for this example, in a fountain monument or a garden area. And if someone enters, the system can send an alert or activate a nearby speaker. In agricultural and even industrial sites, you can draw zones around sensitive areas like machinery, fuel storage, livestock pens, etc. The system can alert you if people or vehicles enter any of these zones during specific hours, should I say, because this is the best part. You can schedule these analytics to only be active during certain times. So, for example, after hours or during weekends or even during custom schedules. All this designed to avoid false alarms and keep your system much more efficient. I've prepared a video not only showcasing the line crossing and sterile area analytics in action, but also how to set up a line crossing analytic. Now, I want you to bear in mind when you are viewing this, so keep this in the back of your head. Even though this is our most simple and basic analytic, the same principles will apply if you're setting up this analytic or our most advanced analytics. Okay, that's the beauty about our system. It's extremely user-friendly. It is repetitive. Once you know how to do the most basic setup, you'll be able to do more advanced setups. And let me explain to you why. So, whenever you want to set up an analytic rule, you always go to the menu, click on settings, and then follow the text that says analytics. Once you've selected analytics, you can select which type of analytic you want to set up. So this is the analytics setup page. It's by default, no matter which analytic you want to set up, you'll be presented with something extremely similar every single time. And the process is always the same. Select the specific camera that you want to set up the analytic rule. Once you've done that, you can select the specific analytic you want to set up. So for this example, I want to set up line crossing. And you can see that line crossing, sterile area, area entry, and area exit are all bolded in white, where loitering detection and illegal parking are grayed out. So the system's smart enough to understand the capability of the camera. So it won't allow you to set up analytics on the camera if the camera is not able to do the analytic. So now we're going to select our analytic, and then we always, no matter which analytic we set up, must enable the detection. Then we can start defining our parameters. So for this example, we'll draw lines as it's line crossing. Okay, and then also all our DDA first generation analytics, we need to select which object we want to detect. Do you want to detect humans, vehicles, two vehicles, any combination of two, all three, or just one? So for this example, we're going to select only to detect two-wheel vehicles. And then we can also define the direction. We can define left to right, right to left, or even bi-directional. We also have the ability to set up 4 different lines on the field of view. So 4 different lines for line crossing and 4 different areas for sterile area. Okay, each line can be have a different direction defined. Now, no matter which analytic you're setting up, you're always going to need to set up a trigger, or I shouldn't say need to. You'll be presented with options to set up triggers. The reason why I say you don't need to is because a lot of people utilize analytics purely for recording filtering, where they don't really necessarily need to be alerted. if the rule is violated, but perhaps want to search for all human line crossing events instead of going through endless amounts of motion detection or 24-hour recording. Nevertheless, we do offer on every single analytic the ability to set up a trigger. So for this specific rule, I'm going to set up a video pop-up. Once I've defined my trigger, I can push apply and I'll wait for the rule to be violated. So now on the bottom left, here's our rule, and what's going to happen is only if a two-wheel vehicle travels from left to right, we'll get our event, and as the event occurs, the trigger is to pop up the video large on our screen. So you'll see now the two-wheel vehicle will approach a second. As it does, the pop-up happens almost instantaneously. And we also get our smart snapshot occurring live on the interface as well. And you'll see that the car drove past and it ignored it. And even here on a second camera, which is actually a PTZ with auto tracking, we've set up a line crossing rule to detect vehicles traveling from right to left and then to track automatically when that occurs. Now let's look at sterile area. So I'm not going to show you how to set it up. Like I said, the principles are pretty much identical, except you draw in specific areas. So for this specific rule, I've defined two areas within our field of view to detect people. And when a person enters either one of these areas, I want a video to pop up. As you can see, in fact, two people entered at the same time. So we get a video pop up, we get our smart snapshots. And then even when the person goes behind a bush and enters into the second area, a pop-up occurs for a second time because now this person has entered the area or the second area. And we can define how long we want the video to pop up for. So there was, I think, for 3 seconds, but you can define 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, etc. Let's move on to our second generation analytics, which focuses on object attributes, also known as metadata. And just a quick reminder, our AI doesn't only identify objects like people or four-wheel vehicles and two-wheel vehicles, for matter of fact, but it can also recognize the attributes of those specific objects. So here's how it works. Once the AI detects and identifies an object, it also analyzes its attributes and stores that information directly onto the NVR. This means that during a post-event investigation, you could search based on specific object attributes. So this allows you basically to fine-tune your search and pinpoint events much faster than using motion detection or other traditional analytics. I have got 2 real-world case studies where this analytic feature proved to be extremely useful, so let's go take a look. For the first example, we have a case study where a vehicle bumped into another vehicle in a parking lot. An eyewitness came forward a few hours later saying he saw what happened. He wasn't sure who the person was. All he knows is that he thought he saw a white-colored Citroen drive into another vehicle into the parking lot, and drive off. So with just those 2 attributes, I'm going to go and try and pinpoint the event pretty quickly. So also, just like our analytics setup page, our analytics search is also identical. No matter which platform you use, you're always following the same principles. The principles are always specifically searching or specifically selecting which object you're searching for, then define a date range, select any combination or individual camera, select all events or specific events, for this example, video metadata, and then because we've selected vehicle as our object, we have the ability to even fine-tune even more by saying I only want to search through vehicle events or two-wheel vehicle events. And then because we're searching for metadata or attributes, we can go and define those attributes as well. So we can define the color of the vehicle, and then we can define also the brand, which is Citroen. So just with those 2 attributes, let's hit search. And luckily for us, we get 1 result. So naturally, we want to go and investigate. We can go deeper into the event by clicking on the 3 dots to bring up more details, such as when the event occurred, which camera it occurred on, the alarm type, in this case video metadata, what object was detected, in this case a vehicle, every single one of our analytic searches will always bring you two images. Firstly, a snapshot image, which will basically be a close-up of the object that was detected, as well as a scene view, so a full scene view from the camera. And because we're searching for metadata, AI analytics, that attribute information will also be present when you are looking through the snap details. And you can actually see that it says the color of the vehicle is white and the brand is a Citroen. Now, with just a few clicks, we can go to playback and we can go and review the incident. Now, unfortunately, the car did hit the car out of the field of view. Nevertheless, we're still able to leverage or use this footage to locate the suspect and close this matter. We had another incident, another incident with the same camera, where we had our store manager come to us quite upset, saying that he had a fight with somebody he's never met before. He doesn't know which company he works for. This guy took a roll of cable, put it into his car. It wasn't his roll of cable to take, and they had an argument. And the manager wants us to go back and review the footage. All he said is he wasn't sure what time of the day it was, but the person was a male and he was wearing a black golf shirt. Can we go try and retrieve the footage? So just those two attributes, male and black golf shirt, we're going to go and try and locate the footage. So once again, we go to our analytics search. We now select for a human because we're going to search for a person. We know which camera it occurred on, so we're going to select that camera, and I'm going to select for video metadata because that's what I'm looking for, object attributes, and then I can begin to search for the attributes. Now you'll see a lot more attributes I can search for when it comes to people, and what this actually translates to is that every attribute that you can search for means our analytic is able to detect. Okay, so there are a lot more attributes that we can detect when it comes to people, and we're going to input the information. So it was, our witness said it was a male. He was wearing a black golf shirt. So upper clothing was a short sleeve and the color of the clothing was black. And we're going to hit OK. Now, naturally, we should hit a lot of results because it's a very common color. But luckily for us, the second snapshot, somebody's holding a roll of cable. So naturally, we'll review that first. So no matter what analytic you're searching for, if you click on the snap, it will bring up a 7-second preview on the bottom left-hand side of the page. And once again, you can click on the 3 dots to get into more details. So similar to what I showed you before, this time we found a human. And now I want you to notice the attribute information. There's a lot more information when it comes to people. So there's the black short sleeve, and then they've even detected, or the AI's even detected, that the lower clothing is grey long trousers. So even if I searched for grey long trousers, I would have eventually got into the same results. Now when I hit play, I've got a few seconds to review the footage. I can see the guy clearly putting the roll of cable into his van. Here comes my manager waving his hands, and the argument begins. So with this information, we're able to pinpoint exactly who the person was, and we resolved the matter. Next, I want to talk about illegal parking and loitering analytics. I'll explain them together because the principle behind both are essentially the same. Both analytics rely on object recognition within a defined area. This is very similar to sterile area feature that I showed you earlier. The key difference is that we can now set a predefined time threshold. So if that threshold is exceeded, only then the event will be triggered. The difference between the two lies in the type of the object. So loitering applies only to people, and illegal parking applies only to vehicles. So when either of these objects enters at the defined zone, the system starts a timer. If the object remains inside the beyond time limit, it will trigger an alert or a defined reaction. Let's look at some practical examples of loitering detection. So one of the most common use cases that comes to mind is monitoring ATMs. You want to be notified if someone is loitering near the machine, not just walking past it. Similarly, this analytic is great for monitoring driveway entrances or property perimeters, where it's not only helpful to get alerts every time someone walks by on the sidewalk, but rather only if they linger for, say, 30 seconds or a minute, which might indicate suspicious behavior. From an operational perspective, there are many creative applications I can think of. For example, in a hospital setting, you could set a loitering rule at a patient check-in area with a predefined time limit of 5 minutes, which might align with the KPI for the patient intake. And if someone exceeds that threshold, the system can notify the shift manager to take action. Similarly, you may want to avoid people lingering inside of a parking lot. So you could set up a loitering area with a predefined time. And if anyone is inside that parking lot for longer than that time period, you can notify security. Now, let's quickly connect with illegal parking, which works on the exact same principle, just applied to vehicles. Now, I want you to take a car wash as an example. If a vehicle stays in a certain zone for more than 10 minutes, that might mean that the cleaning process is taking way too long, and you can notify whoever you need to accordingly. Or from a logistical setting, you could use this rule to monitor loading zones to ensure that goods are offloaded within an expected time frame. It's also great for detecting if someone's blocked your driveway or parking where they shouldn't. Because loitering and illegal parking analytics function almost identically, I'm going to be showing you only loitering in the next video example. So let's take a look. For here, we have a case study where workers in Provision-ISR were taking a smoke break in the parking area, obstructing the vehicles entering and exiting, which is against company policy. So to address this, we implemented a loitering rule with a time threshold of 15 seconds. And if that 15 seconds is exceeded, we're going to set off a trigger, siren, apologies. So here comes our first person into the loitering area and a countdown begins. Just note that the countdown that you're seeing on the screen is there for graphical representation, but there's an internal countdown that AI counts. Now, this person happened to not exceed the 15 seconds. Maybe he left his lighter inside. Nevertheless, he exited before the 15-second countdown, so nothing happened. But he returns, and this time he feels a bit lonely. First of all, a countdown began as soon as he returned, and when he calls his mate, a countdown begins for his mate as well. Now, the event will occur whichever object is in the area for longer than this defined 15 seconds, which was actually the first object. Now, with any analytic rule, we do have the ability to search for it on our NVRs. I have shown you the NVR searching ability with the analytics, so I'm not going to show you this again with the loitering rule. I hope you're still with me. We are well past halfway mark, so please stay engaged. We've got some exciting features to come, and I want to move on to object counting. So our AI is capable of counting objects, and just to remind you, when I say objects, I'm always referring to humans, 4- and 2-wheel vehicles. We can count objects based on either line crossing or within a defined area, but we don't stop at just counting. You can also set thresholds, for object counts, and you can trigger alerts when those thresholds are exceeded. We can also reduce false alarms by defining how long a threshold must be exceeded before an event is triggered. So short-term or accidental crossings won't set off the alerts, in other words. And to take it a step further, the system can also generate automated reports, daily, weekly, or monthly. So, for example, you could start identifying trends, like figuring out which day of the month is the busiest in your store. And that insight helps you make smart operational decisions, such as deploying more cashiers or security staff during peak times. Another great use case is for advertising billboards. You can place a camera near your billboard. You can count how many people or vehicles or both are passing by and being exposed to your ad, which gives you or your client valuable data about the audience reach and effectiveness of the billboard. Just a note, the automated reporting feature is currently available only on the line crossing based analytic, just so you're aware. Nevertheless, I've prepared a video for you, so let's take a look at object counting in action. To set up object counting analytics, no matter if it's counting by area or counting by line, you're going to need to access the analytics setup page just as any other analytic feature. And the object counting option is located under the others category. So this process, or the setup process, follows the same straightforward steps as any other analytic. Start by selecting the camera you want to configure, then choose the analytic, in this case object counting by area. Then please ensure that you click the checkbox enable, and then you can begin to set the rule parameters. So first we're going to define the area within the field of view where the objects will be counted as they enter. You can also decide when you want this rule to be active by setting a schedule. Additionally, you can specify the duration for how long the event should remain active once they occur. The time threshold feature is a valuable addition which allows you to define how long the threshold must be exceeded before an event is triggered, and this is what helps prevent unwanted events or false triggers caused by brief threshold breaches. This is what I explained to you earlier. You can also fine-tune the detection range by setting your minimum and maximum object sizes with the flexibility to define different sizes ranges for each object. Next, you can decide which objects to count, selecting from humans, vehicles, or two wheels, or any combination of these. Additionally, you can adjust sensitivity for each object type individually, and you can also then set stain threshold, which defines the maximum number of objects allowed in the defined area, and you can assign different values for each object type. Once you've done, you can click apply and then or to save changes, and then on the top right corner you'll notice an advanced button. Clicking on this will open up additional configuration options. So for example, you can set the counter to automatically reset on a schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, or at a specific time of the day. Alternatively, you can also manually reset the counter as needed. Remember I told you that automated reporting is only applicable for line crossing object counting. So this is where you would set that up. If this was a line crossing object counting analytic, you would locate those automated report settings within the advanced settings within the analytic rule setup. Okay, so now let's look how to customize the on-screen display overlay. So with object counting, you have the option to display stats directly on the screen, and you can customize the overlay by deciding where the stats appear on the screen and what information is displayed, including customization of labels and even messages. So this ensures a highly tailored and user-friendly presentation of all your object data. And finally, you can configure a trigger to activate when any threshold is exceeded, and the NVR provides flexible options to customize your responses. I'm not going to go through all of them now because I have a section dedicated specifically to triggers, but we'll set up this rule and we'll go see it in action. So I've set a rule, we'll define an area and set a rule with the threshold of 3 people. If the threshold of 3 is exceeded, the OSD is going to change from welcome to please wait, and I want the video to pop up large with the camera on the screen only after 5 seconds after the threshold has been exceeded. So let's see what happens. Firstly, we get 3 people walking almost simultaneously into the defined area, and you'll see our stay count automatically goes to 3 as soon as they enter. Now remember, the threshold is 3, so anything exceeding that will activate our rule. Now the 4th person comes, and only after 5 seconds we get our event occurring, and in essence we get our trigger, which is the video pop-up. Now, the count will obviously remain in 4 as long as people are in that area, and as soon as people start exiting, the count will obviously reduce accordingly. Next, let's move on to audio-based analytics. So using the built-in microphone, or even by connecting an external mic to one of our device's audio inputs, the system can detect and respond to changes in sound levels, whether the sounds are above or below a defined threshold. So for example, sudden spikes in noises such as gunshots, motorbikes, honking, doors barking, this can trigger an event and initiate a chain reaction of triggers, like sending alerts or activating sirens, etc. On the other end, we can also detect a drop in constant background noise. So imagine a factory floor where machines are always running, or even a server room with a constant hum. If that steady noise suddenly decreases or stops, the system can recognize it and trigger an alert, potentially preventing a bigger issue. Next, let's talk about face detection and recognition. And more importantly, let's make sure the difference between the two is clear. First things first. In order to do face detection, you do not need face recognition. But to do face recognition, you must first have face detection. Let me try explain this. So, starting with face detection. Provision-ISR has had face detection analytics for quite some time now, and we've improved it steadily year after year. With face detection, our AI identifies faces within the camera's field of view, and it can detect up to 5 to 10 faces in each frame. Once the face is detected, the camera sends a snapshot to the NVR where it is stored for post-event searching. So the face detection, or this is the key, the face detection doesn't need to know who the person is. It is simply identifying that a face is present in the field of view. Later, you can go and upload a photo to the NVR and run a similarity search to find all matching faces from the stored snapshots. That is very simple and does not require a database, but the key point here is that face detection is detecting faces within the field of view. Once it detects a face, it sends those snapshots of those faces to the NVR to be stored. Now, face recognition takes things to another level. This feature utilizes databases of faces where you can assign names. So, for example, you might have Ami on a VIP list, Mark on a waiting list, or a white list, and Istvan might be on a block list. So this is how it works. The camera needs to detect the face within the field of view. Once that's done, the snapshot is sent to the NVR. The NVR does a real-time comparison with the existing databases or against the existing databases. If there is a match and that face belongs to a listed person on one of the databases, the system can trigger specific actions which you can set up. Some use cases, for example, is Isvan is on a block list. You can activate a siren as soon as he is recognized. If Ami is on a VIP list, when he walks into a car dealership, you can notify the top salesperson via a push notification, and you can play VIP music through speakers automatically. And if Mark is on a white list, the system can also automatically open up the door for him. One of the best parts is that you no longer need to struggle with the NVR. Simply using the Provision-ISR Cam2 application, you can add people to your face databases directly from your phone, which is instant and effortless. Okay, it's an amazing feature, and we get so many compliments about it. Another useful application for face recognition is in investigations. So you can search for events by face matches. like I showed you earlier, or you can take it a step further and utilize eMaps to visually track where and when a person was seen across different cameras. So I've got a great real-world example coming up to show you just how powerful this feature can be. So let us go and check it out. I want you to imagine there's an employee facing performance issues. This person's arriving late, he's leaving early, he's causing distractions, he's going into areas where he shouldn't be. HR, after receiving complaints, is going to leverage face recognition to analyze the footage of this employee's activities, and taking it even a step further, HR is going to track the employee's movements throughout the day utilizing an eMap. So in order to initiate this process, you're going to navigate through to the menu and click on Analytics. We're going to search for a face, and more specifically by a face, and then we're going to load what I call a target picture. A target picture can come from 3 different sources. It can come from an existing database, it can come from a snapshot gallery. So a snapshot gallery are all face detection events that have occurred on our face detection enabled cameras on our system. So these people may be on a database, they may not be on a database. In this way, you can actually search for strangers and leverage eMaps searching for strangers. Or you can upload a image from an external source. But because this employee is on a database, we can go and select him from one of our existing databases. Once we do that and the search results appear, I'll explain to you what we're looking at. So first of all, we're looking at all matches against the target picture that have occurred within the defined date range. Secondly, I want you to look at all the snapshots on the right-hand side. All of them have a time when the event occurred, which camera detected the event, as well as a percentage. The percentage is how sure is the NVR that specific snapshot from that event matches against the target picture that you've loaded. Now, naturally, the higher the similarity percentage you set in the search, the more accurate your results are going to be. Okay, just like any one of our analytics, you can click on it to bring up a 7-second preview on the bottom left, or you can go into more detail by clicking on the 3 dots. Now, because it's face detection or recognition, you're going to have all the basic information like any other analytic, but you're going to have a snapshot of the actual event of the face, in this case of the object, which is the face, and you're going to have the percentage against the target picture. In this case, it was a database picture. And because ARI is on the database, any information you've loaded onto the database will also appear in these details. Also, like any other analytic, if you've got multiple results, you can actually scroll through them by clicking on Next or Previous. And when you want to play back any of them, simply hit Playback, and it will always take you to that event in the Playback menu. Now, in order to leverage eMap tracking, I've already loaded a floor plan of the office onto this NVR. So to track ARI's movements via this eMap, we're going to navigate to the Track button and then hit Play. Upon doing so, playback will begin in chronological order based on the search results. I want you to notice the camera on the map will go red, indicating that this is the camera that is playing the footage, and it will automatically progress to the next event, also highlighting that respective camera. By clicking on the tracking button, we can precisely observe ARI's movements throughout the office over that specific period of time. And after analyzing numerous incidents through face recognition, as well as tracking, eMap tracking, HR was able to utilize this evidence and addressed ARI's behavior, leading into a huge improvement into his work conduct. All right, I promise you we'll be very close to the end. Please just bear with me for a little longer as we cover a very important topic. NVR triggers. So what exactly is an NVR trigger? And I've mentioned it a lot in today's seminar. An NVR trigger is basically an action that you can configure to occur in response to any event on your system. whether it's an AI event like line crossing sterile area or even a motion event. But first, just a quick note, just because you've set up an analytic doesn't mean you actually have to associate it with a trigger. Some users configure analytics purely for smarter recording filters. So for example, only record when a person is detected crossing the line. Only record when a vehicle is in a specified area. This makes searching for specific events way easier, and on top of that can save on hard drive space. But if you do want to take action when an event occurs, then that's where the NVR triggers come in. So you can send a push notification to the Cam2 app, ideal for on-the-go users. You can send email alerts for multiple recipients with event snapshots and event details. This is perfect for management or remote monitoring centers. You can take snapshots of the event. You can also trigger recording, not just the recording from the camera that detected the event, but from any other camera in the system. So this is great for capturing wider context around the incident. You can do a video pop-up, which I've shown you many times today, where you can display a pop-up video window on the NVR monitor that's where the event has occurred. And the NVR buzzer, you can actually activate it as a trigger for immediate on-site awareness, that annoying buzzer sound. And then let's move on to alarm outputs. So you can activate alarm outputs on the NVR, which can be connected to third-party devices such as strobe lights and sirens, or you can activate alarm outputs on any connected device that has an alarm output. So for example, any camera with an alarm output, or even our I/O extension box with an alarm output, you can activate based on any event. If you have PTZs, you can request your PTZs to move to specific presets. And if you have our active deterrence cameras with the built-in strobe light and speaker, you could request the audio to play on the speaker and the light to strobe as well as part of a reaction to any event. And the last trigger we have is to play customized audio messages through an connected IP horn speaker. So this can trigger a pre-recorded audio message. For example, warning, you trespassing, please leave immediately. And this is a great way to automatically deter intruders with no actual human intervention required. So with these triggers, you can really build a intelligent and responsive surveillance system. Whether you're trying to alert a guard, scare off an intruder, or just automate any process, triggers give you total control over how your system reacts in real time. And you might think it's extremely complicated to set up, but it's actually, on the contrary, very simple. So let me show you a very brief video of how easy it is to set this all up. Just a reminder, no matter which analytic you're setting up, from our most basic to our most advanced to even motion, you're always going to have the option to set up a trigger, and the triggers are always going to be the same. So for example, we can set general triggers such as snapshots, push notifications, video pop-ups over here. And on top of being able to enable these on and off, you'll see on the top left, we have further customization for each one of those general triggers. So for example, if you want a video pop up, we can decide how long must the video pop up before it automatically closes. You can enable and disable the push notifications entirely for the NVR. You could set how long you want a strobe light to activate for, as a few examples. Then when it comes to setting up recording, by default it will record on the camera that picked up the event, but you can record any other camera that's on the system by simply ticking them and pushing them to the on position. Now comes the automation part, where you can activate alarm outputs. The first four are generally the alarm outputs on the NVR, and the remaining options would be any other alarm output coming or connected to our system from our camera or our I/O box. And the nice thing about the alarm outputs as well is that you can customize the names, so you know exactly what you're triggering. And on top of that, as you can see, you're not limited to triggering 1 or 2. You can actually trigger up to 16 alarm outputs based off a single event, which is a lot. And if you have PTZs, this is where you would select a PTZ preset for the camera to move to automatically based on the single event. And then with our RP speaker, you can select a custom voice message. So just to give you some idea what's going on here, or just to summarize what's going on here, based on a single line crossing event on this camera, I'm going to have a snapshot taken, a push notification sent to the app, video pop up on my NVR, I'm going to send an email, I'm going to record 5 cameras, I'm going to activate alarm outputs on, I think 12 different alarm outputs. I'm going to get my PTZ to move to a specific preset, and I'm going to get my IP speaker to shout a male angry voice at the intruder. There's a lot going on, but it's very simple to configure and operate. That is the main point here as well, for you to understand that it's so easy and logical to set up. And with that, we're going to move on to the last topic of the day. I want to introduce you to a really interesting and powerful feature in Provision-ISR's analytics toolbox, which is called combined alerts. Think of it as a kind of automation rule, similar to a logical if statement. If event A happens, and at the same time event B happens, only then trigger an action. In our system, this means that 2 or more conditions must be met simultaneously for a trigger or an alarm to occur. We call this a combined alert. So what kind of events can we actually combine? So there are quite a few. It could be a sensor input, like a door contact and a PIR sensor triggering at the same time. It could be DDA analytics from our first generation. So for example, line crossing from 2 different cameras. Or it could be a mix, like line crossing from one camera and sterile area from another. You can even combine face recognition results with a sensor input. The key point here is all selected conditions must occur at the same time in order for the system to generate a reaction, whether it's an alarm, it's a notification, an output trigger, or something else. This level of logic gives you much more control over how and when alerts are triggered, helping reduce false alarms and improve system intelligence. It's a capability that we believe is quite unique to Provision-ISR, and I've included 2 practical examples where combined alerts can be useful, but honestly, the possibilities are wide open. You can get really creative with it depending on your project needs. Example number 1 is license plate recognition with dual authentication. Let's take a common use case, which is license plate recognition, used as an access control method to enter a property. Now, as many of you know, LPR works really well. It's very convenient, but from a security point of view, has a few weaknesses. For example, license plates can be cloned or duplicated fairly easily, and you may grant access in and out of property to stolen vehicles. This is where combined alerts really shines. We can set up a dual authentication scenario. First, the license plate must be recognized and verified against a predefined whitelist. Then, simultaneously, the driver's face must also be recognized and verified using face recognition, again based on a whitelist. Only when both the LPR and the face recognition are successfully matched at the same time, the system will trigger the output, such as opening a boom gate or an automated barrier. So instead of relying on a single factor, you now have a multi-layered security check that dramatically improves access control reliability, its security and its convenience working hand in hand. Another great use case for combined alerts involves outdoor alarm sensors, like your motion detectors. Now, while these are essential for perimeter and outdoor protection, they can be vulnerable to false alarms. Why? Because they're outdoors. They're exposed to harsh weather and wind, and they often pick up large animals like dogs and even birds. And when that happens, even though there's no real threat, the system still triggers an alarm. This is where combined alerts can help you filter out this noise. And here's how. Utilizing your outdoor detector as one half of your combined alert, add an IP camera from Provision-ISR with a line crossing analytic. And remember, that could be from our most basic series all the way up to our most advanced series. If an animal is detected by the alarm sensor, the AI within our cameras is smart enough to understand that is not a person, therefore both events have not occurred simultaneously and we get no alarm activation. However, if a person is detected by the detector and the AI identifies it as a human, only then will the alarm activate. So as you can see, this is a simple and effective way to dramatically reduce false alarms and make your outdoor protection much more smarter with just one of our most basic IP cameras and any combination of alarm sensor working together. I hope you found the analytics solutions I shared today to be practical, useful, and easy to relate to. The truth is there's so much more we can do with analytics within the Provision-ISR ecosystem. At the end of the day, it all comes down to how creative you want to get with the tools that we provide you. Thank you again for your time. I look forward to seeing you all next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.